was at Greenwood for 6 years, probably 12 to 18, 13 to 18 years old. And a lot of things change in that time, and it's not just the school. But I always say it's hard to picture myself without Greenwood, just in terms of who I grew into as a person.
I'm Agnes Stowicki, Managing Editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private and independent schools to bring you insights into school programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administration. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
I think I appreciated the opportunities that were there for me. And what I mean by that is, I think it was in part because it was a small school, but there was just, you could be involved in so many different things at Greenwood. So for me, I participated in 3 different sports teams. I played basketball, volleyball, and tennis. I was in the school play. Help volunteer to help out with other plays that I wasn't participating in. I was in some clubs. I did Model UN and Model Parliament. And some of those things, I had never played volleyball before I tried out for the Greenwood volleyball team. And that is something that I ended up playing at university and still play now. And I think at other schools, I might have just been intimidated to try doing something that I wasn't necessarily good at yet. And at Greenwood, I really thought there was just this energy and sense of hey, just go for it. Why not? And I was able to be really, really involved and have just a ton of extracurriculars. And I know that was a really large part of the way that I bonded with other students. So to me, that was something that was always really, really spectacular. For me, I would think about Greenwood as a place that is really committed to making the learning work for everybody. So, I think some places it's very you go there so you can learn from them what they want to teach. And I think Greenwood had this idea of hey, everyone's needs are going to be different in terms of education, and they want to meet you where you're at, rather than having you sort of come to them. So I think it was a place that, recognized that people have different learning styles. And there's ways for all those different people to succeed. They just need a level of nurturing. And I think Greenwood was always really committed to doing that. And that is, through the academic focus, but I think that was through the social focus and through the extracurricular focus and through the outdoor education focus as well. And I thought that gave people more space to be themselves. The first one is, I think, Greenwood does have a sense of humor. I think they'd be a funny person. And most importantly is I think that they'd be a person who doesn't take themselves too seriously. I think that's a big part of humor. So, I think that idea of not thinking that you're the grandest and best and can't take a punch here and there, the idea that you want to have a fun time and you realize when you're being silly, and that's kind of part of who you are. I think that's, to me, feels like a big essence of Greenwood. I think Greenwood would also be a very loyal person, a very loyal friend, someone who's there for you, hard times, good times, and really just wants to see you through that and walk beside you. And I think Greenwood would be kind of quirky in their interests. I think Greenwood would be the type of place where it's they do things on the weekends or with their friends where you're that's a little bit odd, but once you get to know it a little bit more, it's pretty fun. And really recognizes that there's a lot of different ways to be passionate, and would be sort of unashamed about all the things that they're passionate about. I would say just that, feeling of maybe being a little bit different in some way. And, I think when we're teenagers, most people have that sense. But yeah, I think that, again, to me, it was looking at that school at a time when it was very new. I was there in the second year it was open, and I think that in a sense is a little bit of a risk. But I think that the folks who took that risk did so because they felt that they were just maybe a little bit of a different person in some way, and they saw a school that was a little bit different in some way. And yeah, those things I think came together really well. And to me, it did feel like a different educational experience than other people got, and I think that was a positive. So I think that was a bit of shared feelings of quirkiness amongst the students who were there. This is similar to what I said earlier, but I think Greenwood is flexible and adaptable. So to me, it can be different things to different people, and I think that is certainly what it strives to and wants its students to be, is recognizing, like, this life is full of ups and downs and new challenges, and you can only prepare so much in the sense of knowing exactly where you're going to get into, because there's unexpected things. But what you can do is be ready to sort of face some level of adversity and be ready to sort of roll with the punches. So to me, I think that's what Greenwood wants to do in its education, is, again, make it accessible to different folks, really find what people's strengths are and emphasize those, but also give this sense of confidence to people, and really allow people to see the ways that they can succeed, for people to see who's going to be there to support them when they're trying to get through difficult things. And in that sense, really, yeah, recognize that you can walk into an unfamiliar environment and you can gain a sense of comfort. So I think that's what adaptability is to me, and I think that that's something that Greenwood values, is making people who, even if you can't know everything or be good at everything in the world, have that sense of, like, okay, what can I do in this moment to make myself feel a little bit more prepared, and be ready to tackle something new. Maybe it's not the grandest surprise of all, but I think just that it's, to me, was a fairly casual environment. I think I hope the schools are moving in this direction, but I think in some ways there's this sense of, like, the authority where there's a principal and the vice principal, and the teachers are sort of in charge of students, and I think that type of attitude can be a little bit oppressive to folks. It can be a little bit contradictory to learning when it's very rigid. And so Greenwood is, I think, a place where you get a little bit more of a blur between those lines, and recognizing that the staff are there to fulfill their duties as educators, but also to have fun. I mean, I remember maybe other folks do this as well, but I remember in my physics class having a project where you had to build a catapult to try and hit your teacher with a water balloon, and things like that really make the learning environment a little bit more fun, and have a way of engaging people in their education. I always say it's hard to picture myself without Greenwood, just in terms of who I grew into as a person. I gained so much confidence in myself. I gained a lot of confidence in my ability to socialize with others and be close with other people. So one compliment I really enjoyed receiving recently is someone referred to me as, like, a friend captain, the idea of that person who actually, like, brings people together, and make sure that people hang out and have a good time together. And when I look at myself in grade 7, I was nervous and I was a little bit more anxious about talking to folks. Um, and yeah, over time, I just was able to have that experience of getting really good friends, um, you know, bonding with friends in different cool atmospheres, doing some of the outdoor trips and camping, being on these sports teams. Um, so for me, I think that just changed me into a more social person and a bit of a leader, which I'm not sure that I had in me quite as much before I went to Greenwood. Um, and so, I think that's served me well in education and served me well professionally. But, really, I think it's just had this tremendous impact on how I relate to other people. One thing I would say, and it's kind of funny because I think it's probably already even better for students, is I've been back to tour this school. It expanded, the physical footprint and the building of the school uh, since I was there. And when I toured it, it was really cool, and I was also a little angry, just a little bit jealous because they have really really cool facilities now. Like they have a black box theater in the building now, which I always is like that would have been so amazing to be able to use that. It's not something that I can say I regret because it was fun, doing plays on the stage by the climbing wall in our cafeteria back in the day. There was that make it work type of attitude. Um, and the other story I tell a lot is the school was still under construction when I started. So we would have gym classes across the street in the park, in the beginning. And that was like amazing in September and fun in October. And then November rolled around. And it was like, we're getting a little bit chilly here. But I know that the school has developed their facilities a lot, which is really incredible. The other thing I would say for myself is, and again, I think this came a little bit from myself, is I do think I could have branched out a little bit more academically. I think that I was someone who's very, very good at sciences and maths, and I cared about getting good grades. So that's what I took so I could get good grades. I did take drama. I loved my English classes, but I think I maybe chose to forego some of the more art side, more creative side classes and experiences, in the name of doing really well. And I mean, I love biology, I love chemistry, I love doing that stuff, but I think I could have invested a little bit more in that other side as well. And maybe that would have meant getting a little bit of a lower grade, but it's not all about the numbers. And so, I like what I was able to do in terms of drama and being in the school play, but yeah, I didn't quite so much in the visual arts, music, branch out to the extent that maybe I could have. When I started there, Greenwood was a very new school, and I was really excited about that. I was excited that it was a small school, um, and I think it had a lot of the values and kind of culture that my elementary school had. Um, but part of that was thinking, you know, Greenwood is not necessarily the most competitive place, when you look at like higher level academics and athletics. Um, and I think that that's actually something that they've done a great job striving for. And I mean, I know myself, I played volleyball at Greenwood and we made it to OFSA when I was in grade 12 and I was all excited about that. Um, and it's, remained a smaller school, but I think that uh, the sense I get is that it is achieving higher um, in some of those domains while also, you know, looking to hold on to those things that make it special and make it welcoming. Um, yeah, a friend was just telling me about how she kept on hearing stories about the Greenwood soccer team on CBC. So I think they're managing to achieve great things, and I think trying to find that space to be able to challenge folks academically while also being flexible in that learning style is something that I probably have more of a sense of appreciation for now. I don't really know what I would have been without Greenwood. At that point in my life, I had a lot of growing to do, and Greenwood was just the place where I could do that in a safe way. I spoke about this in my time at Greenwood, even things when we were doing outdoor ed about I was super afraid of heights and I couldn't do all this stuff that people were doing, going cliff jumping and doing ropes courses. And, uh, I was able to overcome that and learn from that with our educators. I mean, my art teacher helped teach me how to ride a bike, which I didn't know how to do when I started at Greenwood. So I think that it is a place that has that room for personal growth. And that personal can be academic, but I think we all know there's more than academic. And that's a really tremendous thing. I think I would say that, when I reflect at my time at Greenwood, I think it was a very welcoming place. I think anytime you're changing schools, especially at a young age, that's scary. You're going to be meeting new people, having your friend groups change, having your life change. And Greenwood to me had that sense of like, that's okay, come on in. Where there's space for you here. This can be a home for you. And I think young people, adults too, we can do tremendous things as long as we have a sense of comfort. And I think that that's a really big thing that Greenwood provided. Yeah, and then the last thing I'll say is, I mean, it gave me tremendous opportunities to do a lot of exciting things. I mean, I talked about the various extracurriculars that I was able to get involved in. But to me, Greenwood, has always had that integration and history with Kilku and with the camp attitude. And, there's some people who will have already been spending all their summers at summer camp. There's some people who won't have had that experience. And just to be able to pull yourself out of, the everything is focused on academics world and put your friends into that space, put your teachers into that space, go dog sledding, go sea kayaking in BC, white water rafting in Costa Rica. There's a ton that's going to be there for the students that are tremendous educational experiences, but just tremendous life experiences, really. I mean, I would say trust your heart. And maybe that for someone they'd hear that and they'd say not Greenwood, but I know for me it was Greenwood. I know that I was looking at other schools, and I know that I went to do interviews and tours of the school, and it felt so very clearly atop my list of where I would want to be. And I remember talking to my mother and father because I wasn't sure what they were going to think and say, and they felt the same way. And yeah, I walked in that building a nervous person, and it wasn't always easy at every moment, but I don't recall ever having a sense of thinking, why didn't I make this choice instead? So I think we have gut feelings about where we're going to do well and fit in. And that Greenwood might not be that place for every single person, but I think that if you're getting that kind of spark when you look at what it is, I would trust that because I did, and it went really well. I would say you can take your time and you don't have to rush it, but try to push yourself, try to do things that make you nervous or make you scared. We live in a world that really celebrates doing well and succeeding, and that's fine. But I think it's really important to recognize that you can be bad at something and do it and really enjoy it and grow from that. So it's nice to think about a world where, everything we try, we knock it out of the park, but that's not what life is actually like. And you're never going to figure out what fits with you if you don't try things. So yeah, take your time. But if you if you see a moment, an opportunity pop up and it makes your stomach feel a little bit weird, that's okay. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Then maybe that means that you should give it a shot and just see what happens. And if you're not the best at it, that doesn't necessarily matter.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.